Hello, this is Jasmine, and I was recently working on this piece in my sketchbook of this black dragon, and I'm painting this dragon in the Todd Lockwood style. Like, that's the style of dragon I'm going for. He's an amazing artist, check him out. But I realized that it has been a long time since I've done a D&D Storytime or Dungeons & Dragons Storytime. So what these videos are is I take this old Dungeons & Dragons, Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition book that I have, and I read the entry to whatever creature it is that I am working on as you watch the video of me putting it all together. And the black dragon that you saw in the intro, I'm sure you will have noticed that that dragon looks significantly different than the dragon I'm working on. I always put my own spin on these kind of things anyways, but like I said, I'm doing the Todd Lockwood style dragon, and the 2nd edition dragon was done by an artist called Mark Nelson. So just some props to him. It looks amazing. I'm used to the Todd Lockwood style dragons because they're 3.0 and 3.5, which is the system that I've used the most. So I figured I would start this D&D story time not with reading the Black Dragon entry, but first with reading the entry to dragons in general from the 2nd edition book. And I thought that would be fun because it will also make the video a little bit longer. Alright, so I am going to launch into storytime mode now for the rest of the video. Dragons are an ancient, winged reptilian race. They are known and feared for their size, physical prowess, and magical abilities. The oldest dragons are among the most powerful creatures in the world. Most dragons are identified by the color of their scales. There are many known subspecies of dragons, several of which fall into 3 broad categories: chromatic, gem, and metallic dragons. Chromatic dragons include black, blue, green, red, and white dragons. All are extremely evil and are feared by most. The metallic dragons are the brass, bronze, copper, gold, and silver dragons. These are noble and good, highly respected by wise people. The gem dragons are the amethyst, crystal, emerald, sapphire, and topaz dragons. They are neutral with respect to good and evil, and are very charismatic and suave, masters of persuasion who delight in riddles. Though generally smaller and slower than other dragons, gem dragons are often wiser and more intelligent, and have other powers to compensate, like psionics. In addition to the dragons in these 3 classifications, there are other dragons that may at first seem to be members of those categories. For instance, the steel dragon seems to be a metallic dragon, but has only 1 breath weapon, while each true metallic dragon has 2. Likewise, the brown dragon seems to be a typical evil chromatic dragon, but has no wings, so is not a true chromatic dragon. Although all subspecies of dragons are believed to have come from the same roots tens of thousands of years ago, the present subspecies keep to themselves, working together only under extreme circumstances, such as a powerful mutual threat. Good dragons never work with evil dragons, however, though a few neutral dragon specimens have been known to associate with evil or good dragons. Gold dragons occasionally associate freely with silver dragons, and emerald dragons are sometimes found with sapphire dragons. When evil dragons of different species encounter each other, they usually fight to protect their territories. While good dragons of different subspecies are more tolerant of each other, they are also very territorial. They usually try to work out differences in a peaceful manner. Gem dragons often settle interspecies disputes with riddling contests. All subspecies of dragons have 12 age categories, and gain more abilities and greater power as they age. Dragons range in size from several feet upon hatching to more than 100 feet after they have attained the status of great worm. The exact size varies according to age and subspecies. A dragon's wingspan is about equal to its body length. 15 to 20% of a dragon's body length is neck. Generally, when multiple dragons are encountered, they are a mated pair and young. Mated dragons are always young adults, or mature adults. Young dragons found with their parents are of the young adult stage or younger. During the early part of a dragon's young adult stage, it leaves its parents, greed driving it on to start a lair of its own. Sometimes, although rarely, juvenile dragons leave their parents to start their own lives. As a pair of mated dragons age beyond the mature adult stage, they split up, independence and the lust for treasure driving them apart. Older dragons of either sex sometimes raise young, but only on their own. The other parent leaves when the eggs are laid. Dragons, especially older ones, are generally solitary due to necessity and preference. They distance themselves from civilization, which they consider to be a petty and foolish mortal invention. Dragons are fearsome predators, but scavenge when necessary, and can eat almost anything if they're hungry enough. A dragon's metabolism operates like a highly efficient furnace, making use of 95% of all the food the dragon eats. A dragon can also metabolize inorganic material, and some dragons have developed a taste for such fare. Although dragons' goals and ideals vary among subspecies, all dragons are covetous. They like to hoard wealth, collecting mounds of coins and gathering as many gems, jewels, and magical items as possible. They find treasure pleasing to look at, and they bask in the radiance of the magical items. For a dragon, there is never enough treasure. Those with large hoards are loath to leave them for long, venturing out of their lairs only to patrol the immediate areas or to get food. Dragons like to make beds of their treasure, shaping nooks and mounds to fit their bodies. By the time they mature to the Great Worm stage, hundreds of gems and coins are embedded in their hides. Dragon defenses. A dragon's armor class improves as it gets older and the creature becomes tougher. Old dragons or older dragons are immune to normal missiles. Their gem-encrusted hides deflect arrows and other small projectiles. Large missiles, from catapults, giants, etc., and magic missiles affect them normally. Young adult and older dragons radiate a personal aura that makes them partially resistant to harmful magic. A dragon's resistance to magic increases as it ages. Dragon hide. Dragon skin is prized by armorers with the skill to turn it into shields and armor, valuable because of its appearance and the protection it affords. The scales of gem dragons take on properties of actual gems. They are faceted and reflect light. They are slightly more brittle than those of other dragons, so armor made from them requires repair more often. Dragon armor affords no extra protection, such as resistance to fire or cold, although the armor can be enchanted to provide such protection. A dragon's resistance to certain elements is based on its total makeup, not just its skin. Plain dragon armor is expensive to make, costing 1,000 to 10,000 gold pieces based on the workmanship and protection the armor affords. Dragon skin armor can be enchanted, just as other forms of armor can. Dragon shields also offer no additional protection. They are made of stretched hide over a wooden frame. Dragon senses. All dragons have excellent senses of sight, smell, and hearing. Their enhanced senses enable them to detect all invisible objects and creatures, including creatures or items hidden in darkness or fog. All dragons possess a natural clairaudience ability with respect to their lairs. The dragon must concentrate on a specific section within its lair or surrounding area to hear what is going on. Some dragons are able to communicate telepathically with any intelligent creature. Dragon lairs. All dragon lairs are far from mortal civilization, and they are difficult to find because the dragons take careful measures to cloak their coming and going. There is usually little, if any, wildlife around the lairs, because neighboring creatures fear the dragons, and most dragons eat the few creatures that are foolish enough to remain. When a young adult dragon leaves its parents in search of its own lair, It spends a few years moving from place to place to find a cave or cavern which best suits its personality. In most cases, the dragons search for increasingly larger caves which can easily accommodate them as they grow. Usually, by the time a dragon has reached the mature adult stage, it has selected a large lair it plans to keep for the remainder of its life. A dragon at this stage has gathered a considerable amount of treasure and is loath to move it to a different location. The location and character of dragon lairs vary based on each subspecies. However, one thing remains constant. Any dragon considers its lair and neighboring area its domains. A creature which violates or threatens the lair is threatening the dragon and will be dealt with harshly. Some good dragons may be more lenient than other subspecies in this matter. All dragons keep their treasure hidden deep within their lairs, and some dragons create hazardous conditions within their lair to keep unwary creatures from reaching the treasure. Dragon flight. Despite their large size, dragons are graceful and competent flyers. This is due partially to their powerful wings and partially to the dragon's innate magic. Dragon attacks. All dragons have a claw-bite attack form and a breath weapon. Dragons also employ several other attack forms. Dragons frequently divide their attacks between opponents, using the more dangerous attacks, such as the bite, against the foes they perceive to be the toughest. A dragon's preferred attacks are usually, in order, breath weapon, magical abilities or spells, and physical attacks. Dragons learn spells haphazardly over the years. Black Dragon. Black dragons are abusive, quick to anger, and resent intrusions of any kind. They like dismal surroundings, heavy vegetation, and prefer darkness to daylight. Although not as intelligent as other dragons, black dragons are instinctively cunning and malevolent. At birth, a black dragon's scales are thin, small, and glossy, but as the dragon ages, its scales become larger, thicker, and duller, which helps it camouflage itself in swamps and marshes. Black dragons speak their own tongue, a tongue common to all evil dragons, and 10% of hatchling black dragons have an ability to communicate with any intelligent creature. Combat. Black dragons prefer to ambush their targets, using their surroundings as cover. Their favorite targets are men, who they will sometimes stalk for several minutes in an attempt to gauge their strength and wealth before attacking. Against a band of men, or a formidable creature, older black dragons will use their special abilities first, so the very forces of the marsh can weaken the targets before the dragon joins the fight. Black dragons will also use their breath weapon before closing in melee. When fighting in heavily vegetated swamps and marshes, black dragons attempt to stay in the water or along the ground. The numerous trees and leafy canopies limit their flying maneuverability. When faced with an opponent which poses too much of a threat, a black dragon will attempt to fly out of sight so it will not leave tracks, and hide in a deep pond or bog. Breath weapon and special abilities. A black dragon's breath weapon is a 5-foot-wide stream of acid that extends 60 feet in a straight line from the dragon's head. A black dragon casts spells and uses its magical abilities. Black dragons are born with an innate water-breathing ability and an immunity to acid. Habitat and society. Black dragons are found in swamps, marshes, rainforests, and jungles. They revel in a steamy environment where canopies of trees filter out most of the sunlight, swarms of insects fill the air, and stagnant, moss-covered ponds lie in abundance. Black dragons are excellent swimmers and enjoy lurking in the gloomy depths of swamps and bogs. They also are graceful in flight. However, they prefer to fly at night when their great forms are hidden by the darkness of the sky. Black dragons are extremely selfish, and the majority of those encountered will be alone. When a family of black dragons is encountered, the adults will protect their young. However, if it appears the adults' lives are in jeopardy, they will abandon their young to save themselves. They lair in large, damp caves and multi-chambered subterranean caverns. Older dragons are able to hide the entrance to their lairs with their plant growth ability. Black dragons are specifically fond of coins. Older black dragons sometimes capture and question humans before killing them to find out where stockpiles of gold, silver, and platinum coins are kept. Ecology. Black dragons can eat almost anything, although they prefer to dine primarily on fish, mollusks, and other aquatic creatures. They are fond of eels, especially the giant varieties. They also hunt for red meat, but they like to pickle it by letting it lie in ponds within their lair for days before eating it. So that was it for the story time portion of this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting. I'm especially curious to know what people think that have only played newer versions of the game and have maybe read about the dragons and some of the differences that there may be. I haven't played much of any version of the game since 3.0 and Pathfinder 1.0, but yeah, I'm curious what people think. I always have fun. I love that the old books included the like Habitat Society and ecology and whatnot of the creatures, and I always have a lot of fun in these story time videos. Again, the dragon style that I am painting right now is not a version of the black dragon that I came up with all on my own, but it is Todd Lockwood's style of dragon. So he essentially did all of the dragon designs for 3.0/3.5, which have carried on, I believe, all the way to now. They have just recently changed the designs of the dragons, and I know that his do carry some elements of the previous dragons as well. I'm sure he was inspired by the older designs. That is all for this video. I hope you like the sketchbook black dragon, and thank you so much for stopping by.